And there was a time in this country, a long time ago, when reading wasn't just for fags, and neither was writing. People wrote books and movies that had stories, so you cared whose ass it was and why it was farting, and I believe that time could come again.
Hello and welcome to the Think Liberty podcast. This is episode 57, I'm pretty sure, and I am Elizabeth Warren's awkward discussion in the kitchen over a live stream. Actually, I'm your host as always, Vinny Marshall, and joining me this evening, we have Caitlin Cloven. Caitlin, how are you?
I'm good. It's been a fun weekend, getting ready for a move, just staying busy.
Yeah, are you moving to Somalia?
I wish.
Yeah.
No, rural Minnesota. Fun times.
It's like the same thing, right?
Yeah, it might as well be. You know, there are actually there's like a huge Somali population here, so it's really similar. You know, they all work at Walmart. Great. Multiculturalism.
I think this might be racist. I'm not sure.
It's not. It's really not.
Okay.
Just an observation.
All right. Well, I'll take your word for it. So that was it? Just packing? Nothing else this weekend?
Yeah, I packed like 70 boxes the past week.
Oh, shit!
Literally all I've been doing is just packing and, you know, taking care of kids, doing the mom thing.
That's always a party, isn't it?
Fun times, yeah. Yeah,
because we've missed you since the last podcast. We haven't heard about, because, you know, we did take the break here on the podcast, so people haven't heard from you since, I believe, since the new year has started.
Yeah, I had a sick kid last week, so I had to sit out for that one. That was a good episode.
It was pretty good, yeah. We heard about Lonnie's bear. And he's still dealing with that bear. I don't know why that's so entertaining to me, but yeah, we heard about Lonnie's bear, and we talked a little bit about things that we think now that are a little different than the way that we thought about them last year. And I wanted to give you a moment, if you would like, if you have anything to share, please do, about what may have, or what may be different now than it was last year, as far as like your political thoughts or ideas or things like that go.
Actually, yeah, there were a lot of changes this past year. I wouldn't say my general philosophy or outlook has changed as much, but I don't consider myself an anarcho-capitalist anymore. I consider myself a panarchist, not because my economic views have changed. Like, obviously, at the end of the day, I would still want to live in some kind of ANCAP society or community or something to that effect, but I see a lot of ANCAPs are really dogmatic when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like, they have a very deontological view of what society and how things should be structured. So I kind of wanted to distance myself from that, because I see it as, if anarchy is achieved, if we, you know, abolish the U.S. government, all of this land is now just a bunch of different communities. There's nothing saying that, you know, you can't have a socialist or a communist community or society anywhere. So there's going
to sit on a throne of lies.
I mean, there's going to be so many different, you know, structures and all of these normative ethical standards everywhere that it's going to be different no matter where you go. So I just think panarchist is a much better descriptive term of what I believe. It's more like it conveys what my view of anarchy would be instead of my preference. So I'd say that was probably the biggest change. I did have, just like you and Lonnie, the revelation of natural rights.
Right?
Yeah. That was a big one. That was a really big one. I've always kind of thought natural rights were bullshit, but I didn't have the philosophical backing there to like really explore that position, and I did that this year, kind of right along with you guys, and that was a big thing. And now it's hard to watch libertarians argue, because I kind of want to just on everybody like they don't exist. Stop it.
Well, it's hard for me because I never came I didn't come from a place necessarily where I thought it was bullshit, right? I had my own political opinions, and I've had political opinions for as long as I've had them, I guess. I've been primarily independent, right? There may be like single issues where I fall one way or another. But I've never considered myself to be like one party or another. So with that said, it's when it comes to like rights and stuff, I guess I never really considered it. I never really considered like the political philosophical stuff on that kind of a level before. So when I first read someone talking about political philosophy where rights were like a relevant part of the discussion, I didn't necessarily think it was bullshit. I think I just accepted it. Right? Like I was just reading something, and I forget who exactly it was. Like it might have been. People will get mad. I think it might have been Boaz with A Libertarian Mind. That was one of the first ones I read, which isn't a bad book. He kind of blows, but that book wasn't bad. Well, especially when I read it, he didn't have, at least as far as I knew, as much of a reputation to himself at that point. But it was a good book, and I read it, and the argument was just kind of made, like it was just stated. In terms of like, oh, you know, like, and I think Rothbard even wrote this way too, where it's like, you know, if people like things the way they are now, there are some problems with things the way they are. So people would like to have the life that they have now without some of the things that make it difficult. And, you know, to do that, you start with yourself and self-ownership, and everything flows from there. And I was just like, cool. Okay. That makes some like enough sense to me, I suppose. Right. Like, yeah, I agree with it. No problems there. Moving on, chapter 2, you know, and yeah, it wasn't until I heard it challenged and then heard the alternatives until I was like, wait a minute, hold on.
I think that's where a lot of people are coming from when they talk about natural rights. It's just like, yeah, those sound great. Like that's definitely something we should have. Like hell yeah, natural rights. But you really dig into it, and it's like, wait a minute, like. So if they're natural, that means they're inherent. Like where does that come from? Who dictates that? Like, yeah. And then you get into all of the arguments that follow from that. And it's a rabbit hole.
It is. And like I said, without it being challenged or without hearing anything like any alternative points of view, it makes sense, right? When you hear people go on about that, and, you know, you hear it and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, I can get with that. But right. Then, you know, you start looking under rocks. Like we said, yeah, hold on. Hold on a minute. What I have noticed is interesting, though, is like a lot of anarchist philosophies use natural rights as part of their philosophies. And I found that this is kind of interesting because it's like you almost have to as an anarchist. It seems like, right, when you read it, because or like you need that objective, like natural anchor somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Right. Like, yeah. You see the left do it, like, you know, Kropotkin, I believe, did it too. And just like Rothbard did it, right? Like, you on both sides, it's because, like, without a state apparatus, there needs like some void needs to be filled by these writers to put it in there to where it's like.
And a lot of them are writing in a prescriptive tone. So they're saying, you know, how things should be after anarchy is achieved or how to get to it. So they're kind of, you know, prescribing these rights. And that's fine. Like, you know, these are all great things to strive for. But I guess maybe just the use of natural and what that implies is what has always kind of bugged me a little bit.
It almost kind of makes people challenge it by nature. Speaking of natural, right? Because you say natural, and like the very first thing you think of is like, wait a minute. Now you said natural, so I have questions. Yeah,
and I've noticed it always kind of leads to those weird discussions. Like if they're natural, then, you know, they kind of go into like human nature, and then that just gets on a whole different.
But the thing is, too, that's crazy, though, is human nature is not pretty.
It really isn't. I don't know why that human nature is always something that people fall back on. It's like we used to like burn people at the stake for things that we didn't understand. Like we're not cool people. Like humans are not good.
No, things were pretty primitive. Yeah, things were pretty primitive. I would say for the majority of the time that human beings have been a thing on this planet, things have been pretty fucking brutal. Yeah. I don't think it's until recently that changed. Maybe we can have Stephen Molyneux on one of these days, and he can tell us about why things are better now.
Yeah, well, because he went to Poland. Everything's great in Poland.
Man, we haven't talked about that too much lately. Wow, that
he's gone off the deep end.
Yeah.
I saw some tweet the other day from him that was just, I don't even remember it. I think it was on. I think it was more on the race and IQ stuff, and just the mental gymnastics that he's had lately is just mind blowing. Like, how are people still taking him seriously with this stuff?
He's going pretty out there. I mean, like, I don't know what exactly it is. Maybe he just, you know what it seems to me like, is it seems to me like he just got fed up with the criticism.
Yeah, now he's just on defense all the time.
Yeah. Like, no, you know, I mean, it's no secret, right? Like, when you're any kind of political pundit, you're gonna get swung at, and he is one that, you know, he's always had like more radical ideas, right? But not only is he a pundit of sorts, he's also considers himself a philosopher, right? And so he gets into stuff like you're talking like race and IQ, and that's been something that he's always kind of been in on. And now it just, something happened. Maybe he's getting criticized more, maybe whatever. But he is just, all the worst parts are becoming the primary parts now, and all he can do is talk about like how evil women are, how people that are different colors are bad, and how
those tweets get me. Oh man, I get real heated.
I don't know why.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe because I should just stay in the kitchen and have babies and stuff. I don't know. It's super ignorant to me. But I wasn't a fan of Molyneux before all of this happened. Like, I wasn't really familiar with him, so this is kind of all I've seen of him now that I'm paying attention. It's just how do people take this guy seriously?
His stuff wasn't always this crazy. See, now I was only a casual, sometimes listener to Molyneux. Mm-hmm. So I liked his, every now and then I would listen to his call-in shows, and I thought those were pretty interesting. I thought it was interesting how he'd like psychoanalyze somebody and like go down a rabbit hole, but I didn't listen to like the entire body of his work. And perhaps I should have, because I would have heard
those call-in shows. Those were good.
Yeah, they're decent. Like, they're entertaining enough, right? Like, he talks to someone, he tries to break down what happened and why it happened. But then when you like start learning more about who he is and like the defooing stuff, and then you listen to these call-in shows again and like the stuff that he zeroes in on, you're like, this is probably not good. It's rough. But yeah, if anyone wants to take a interesting stroll down Twitter, go down there and check out Molly. He is on some good ones these days. He's got that documentary where he went to Poland, and now it has changed his life. The funniest part about that, by the way, is he talks about, he says, I got a documentary. I went to Poland, and I'm thinking, okay, let me go, I'll go look at this. I'll go see what all the hubbub's about, right? And so, like, the first bit, I think it starts, and I think he goes on a meeting with some people that are his fans from Poland. He goes to some bar and meets with them and hangs out, and that's whatever. And then he goes to this march, and he cries because he loves nationalism. If you don't,
the people walking with the flags was so beautiful and so sobering that he broke down like a little baby.
The part that wasn't, like, it's not that he broke down like a baby, it's why. Like, he sat there crying because he's like, I used to be an individualist, but this collectivism is gorgeous, and I don't know if I can do it anymore. And it's just...
that was so good.
Whew, yeah, so... that happened, and then the last like 20 minutes or so of after that is just him walking around Poland pontificating into the camera in different kind of scenes, and apparently that's what we're calling a documentary now. I want to make a documentary.
Yeah, just strolling through the woods in the snow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I also pull out my camera while just strolling through the woods casually.
Invite a
talk about
cameraman.
differences in race. Yeah. Just a casual Tuesday.
Casual walk. I'm going to take the kids out for a walk and talk about race and IQ. I'll see you later. Okay. Have a good one. Wow. Okay. Anything else in 2018 that you changed your mind? I did mention MMT. This one's so hard for me, and I wanted to see where you were at with it. It's hard for me because it's not like I support MMT, but I do, like, I hear what they're saying, and I look at it and I go, you might be right about how the money works.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I haven't put too much into the whole MMT thing yet. Like, I don't know. I do see a lot of valid points with how the money works, and a lot of it makes sense. Like the whole description of how the system currently is. And I think a lot of people completely misunderstand MMT as some prescriptive system. Like, oh, they want to establish MMT. No, that's not what MMT is at all. Like, it's just an observation. And there are some valid points to that observation. I still have issues with a lot of their historical parts of it. Like, money was always created by government.
The barter theory of money. I have problems with that too. Yeah.
I mean, there's so much evidence out there that states that was not the case, and I can't get with that. But
well, here's like the thing.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't even interrupt you, but while you're on that point, I like that point, and I wanted to stick on it before you move from it. I was just, even if the barter theory, but like even if like all the Graeber stuff, the point that they're missing, and this is where like I talked about it on the last episode a little bit with Lonnie, as when you talk about like the a priori stuff and the like empiricism stuff, it's not necessarily like, oh, well, when you don't have to, listen to fact, when you don't care about facts and you can be right all day, right? I think it has more to do, like, in an example of where people get confused, and that really comes through on the history of money thing, because I think it has more to do with the fact that, like, it's clearly obvious, it's observable, right? With you can look at it and see it. Like, if I have 10 rocks, and you've got like a loaf of bread or something, right? But you want the rocks and I want the bread. There's a value thing going on there, and a trade can be made, right? Because it's like, okay, I put whatever value on this, you put whatever value on that, and everything is that you have this subjective value, and things can get traded. And I think that's kind of what's meant there when people talk about that, when they talk about the barter theory of money and stuff like that. I think that it's convenient, or it's easy to say, okay, well, you can go back far enough and you can find that the money was had by the state and this, that. And even if you did peel it back that far, I think that's fine. It doesn't take away from the larger point that people can recognize and establish value in just about anything, right? Without needing the state to say this is worth something and this is like makes something valuable. So even with that, even saying the difference is there, I still think that if you go back far enough, I'm not sure how true that is, right? Like there's this whole story about the island of Yap where they just had those big fucking rocks, and that was their money.
Right, and that was one of the examples that always popped in my head when I was discussing MMT. Like, because I listened to that podcast. I don't remember what podcast it was, but it was on like
the money one,
history of money, basically.
Yeah, and
that was when crypto was really big, and kind of getting into the whole currency thing. That's the example that always stuck out to me, is the island of Yap that had the rocks, and then the rocks were at the bottom of the ocean, and they were just kind of trading on faith that they were there. Like, it's
because they knew it. Like, how could it have not been, right? Like, no one got it.
Right.
It's certainly still on the bottom of the ocean,
and that wasn't a government, right?
Right. So. Yeah. Well, I mean, unless it depends who you're talking to. Like, if certain people, like, well, were there 5 people that agreed with each other? Well, that's fucking government, buddy. That's sorry.
Government.
Sorry about the bad news, but you fucking lose. Yeah.
It's funny when you just redefine terms, you can win every argument.
It makes everything really easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went.
But yeah, for MMT and me changing my mind on that, I mean, definitely for the current observation of the current system, like that, a lot of it does make sense. So
It's just.
I wouldn't say I'm a complete, follower of MMT or
No, not at all.
observe MMT. Absolutely not. But there are some valid points, and I think libertarians need to stop being so averse to it and thinking it's just some socialist nonsense, because it's not.
Well, what ends up happening is the people that support MMT support a bunch of socialist nonsense. So they're like, this is what I observe about how money works, and this is what we're going to do. I talked about this in the last one, but yeah. But, it's not so crazy when you think about it. Like, the issuer of money isn't held to the same rules that the keeper, the person that spends the money is held to. So it's interesting. Look into some of the core facets of it. And that's all that we're saying here, is that the observations about the nature of money and how it works for the monopolists are very interesting, and they're thought-provoking. I think it's popular in libertarian circles to look at it and go, garbage. And
especially when they first heard of it from, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Or something crazy like that. Yeah. And it's hard to take in. But what it says on the nature of money is actually pretty interesting. But as we said, not too convinced as far as the... I guess the nature of money as according to the monopolist, but the nature of money historically, like we said, we have some issues there. But we already talked about this in the last episode. I did want to get into something that's a little interesting. I have been noticing in this media cycle, they're really eating each other alive out there right now.
Oh man, it's bad. Like, I'm in a few of those like really open political debate groups where it's, every party, every philosophy, and it's just all Democrats and Republicans like calling each other horrible names over, the border and the wall, and oh my gosh.
Yeah, so
it's so toxic.
That's so good. I know, I love it. So you had some Trump tweets. Why don't you, I got some stuff here too, but before we get into that, why don't you roll through some of these Trump tweets?
Okay, let's see here. Tonight he went on a rampage against Elizabeth Warren and that video she put out where she drank the beer like I don't even know what she was trying to replicate there.
Yeah, well, hold on.
Drank a beer really weird.
Before you get into it, maybe I can let me see if I can find the video. It's bad. It's like super, super bad. Let's see. Elizabeth Warren kitchen?
I only saw like a clip of it.
Oh, you did? Oh, let me try and find it.
I didn't even see the whole thing. I just saw like a clip of her drinking the beer all awkward. Like, hello, how do you do, fellow kids? Like,
hold on. I gotta do. It's pretty good. I mean, she's sitting there and she's like, I'm just gonna, you know what? I'm just gonna have a beer, just a regular American beer. Honey, would you like a beer? And he's like, no, I don't want. Okay, I'm gonna have me a beer. It's bad.
She like does not drink beer in real life.
No,
that's not something she ever does. She probably has, some $600 wine bottle she cracks once a month.
She's got something, fancy. But I don't know. It's going to have to be an expensive bottle for those high cheekbones.
Trump tweets tonight, if Elizabeth Warren, often referred to by me as Pocahontas, did this commercial from Bighorn or Wounded Knee instead of the kitchen, with her husband dressed in full Indian garb, it would have been a smash.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my... Like, he's just full-on trolling her. Like, there was nothing presidential about this. Like, just... Like, he basically just memed her. It's great.
That is so good.
And then he put a clip of her in the video where she said, "Hold on a second, I'm going to get me a beer."
Oh, good. Wait, hold on. I think I have it from his wall.
I'm glad for everybody who's joining this video. It's great to hear from you. Hold on a sec. I'm going to get me a beer.
Oh, gosh.
It's the most unnatural thing ever.
Oh, no.
Hey, Robert, my husband Bruce.
Oh, hey. Hi, Bruce.
Want a beer?
No, I'll pass on the beer for now.
You sure? Okay, say hello.
That didn't sound scripted at all.
This is my sweetie. Hello. He's the best. And I'm crazy. I love you, too. Thank you for glad you're here. Enjoy your beer. So
It's funny because the next tweet is best line in the Elizabeth Warren beer catastrophe is to her husband. Thank you for being here. I'm glad you're here. It's their house. He's supposed to be there. I could just picture Trump like sitting at his desk in the Oval Office, like watching this video, live tweeting it.
He's got a point though, right? Like it is her house. Right. Like it is his house.
Like, thank you for being here. What?
Thank you for being here. Like in my fucking kitchen. What are you doing? Like this is.
It's just not something you say to like your significant other. Like, thank you for being here. I'm so glad you're here. Like,
in your own kitchen.
Right. Would you like a beer, dear?
God.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really funny like how far people are going now to try and like relate to the public now that people are starting to announce for 2020. It's like they all saw, Ocasio-Cortez campaign and they're all just copying her because, she did those Instagram live streams like every day. Like she was really connected with her base and I mean, more power to her. She ran an amazing campaign. Like I don't like any of her policies, but her campaign work was on point. But it's funny to see like all of these, older politicians starting to copy her. It's hilarious. There was another one who did some kind of Instagram live stream. I don't remember who it was. It was It was I don't know. It was another popular Democrat. They're all trying to copy her now. It's so funny.
Cory Spartacus himself, was that him?
I think it might have been Booker. Yeah.
I can't stand that guy. I hope not.
Oh God. I lived in Jersey when he was like the senator or something.
I'm sorry.
Oh man, he was on the news like all the time. He just would not shut up about the pension crisis and how we needed to increase taxes. And it was bad.
He's insane. I'm gonna get a beer.
That's also how I announce I'm going to get. Oh dear, I'm gonna go get a beer.
I'm gonna get him. He's the best. I'm just crazy about him. Thank you for being here. This is my kitchen, Elizabeth. I don't know where else I'd be, but all right.
Right.
Oh God. Okay.
It feels like when's dinner?
Yeah, less Instagramming, more. Sorry,
more cooking. That's what you're here for.
Welcome back to the Stephen Molyneux podcast. Anyhow, okay. So I have some stuff here too, which is quite funny. If I don't know how much of this Mike has covered, and you know what? I've tried to step back from covering news because normally that's Mike's domain on the what is it? He switched the name now. Political Circus. Podcast. Yeah, and I support it. I like that.
Just got renamed.
Yeah, I like that. So I'm not sure. I didn't listen to the last one. I'm guilty. I usually try to listen to all of our podcasts, but I didn't listen to the last one. But I didn't know exactly if he had covered any of this or not. But there was some things that I had seen in the news that were hilarious to me that I thought we should cover. So here's the first one. I'm sure everyone has heard this by now, and this is our buddy Jim Acosta down south at the wall. And he's got some words here to share with us. Let's go hear what Jim has to say.
And here are some of the steel slats that the president's been talking about right here. As you can see, yes, you can see through these slats to the other side of the U.S.-Mexico border. But as we're walking along here, we're not seeing any kind of imminent danger. There are no migrants trying to rush toward this fence.
Yeah, so...
Shocker.
Oh, man.
Like, I get the left's position on this, but let's not make it so easy to just tear apart your arguments with this. Like, oh my God.
It's really bad.
Like, I saw a meme that was like making fun of this. It was like Jim Acosta standing in front of like a Brinks security truck at a bank. Like, well, yeah. There's a security truck here. Clearly, we don't need any security because there's nobody robbing the bank.
Right. And I saw another one where it was like him standing in front of an aquarium. And he's like, clearly, here we are. Here I am, right here in front of this aquarium, and I'm dry, right? No water on me, so clearly, we don't need an aquarium because
we don't need this glass here.
Right? Oh, And then, of course, Trump.
Gosh.
Of course, Trump had him for lunch over it.
Oh yeah, an opportunity like that. Whew, I bet Twitter was lit.
I just can't believe he didn't realize what he was doing while he was doing it. Right? Like, how do you not notice what you're doing when that's going on?
Right. And then he's, the townspeople nearby says there's no problems. Well, clearly, because there's a wall there.
Right.
Like, I mean, I get the arguments that walls don't work, but I mean, they do kind of work a little bit. Right. And, you don't go to a part where the wall is and say there's no crisis when that's not where the crisis is. Like, obviously, nobody is going to, charge a wall. It
was just a bad idea. It's just a bad idea for all the reasons we talked about. Like, you don't go to he made a case for the wall better than Trump could have, and he did it from the left. It was oof.
It really just kind of gave the left a really, really big setback their argument.
He dunked on himself. Is basically how it went. Yeah. Okay. So we've got some other stuff. So I also saw something that was super interesting. So you've got this video, and I'm gonna play this video or the audio from this video. I thought it was very interesting for a couple of reasons. This is entertaining to me for more than one reason. So I'm gonna go ahead and play the first bit here. Are you familiar with Ana Navarro?
Yes, the Democratic Republican.
Boy, she would get really mad at you for saying that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Her.
I'm sure she would. Say I'm some SJW thing or racist or I don't know.
No, she gets
She's
pissed when she
Democratic. Like, I don't get it. Like, if you're a Republican, fine. If you're a Democrat, fine. But don't pretend you're something you're not. Like, I don't remember any Republican stances that she has. She's always defending Democrats in every single thing. And I get it. Like, Republicans can be really just gross in general. But I don't know. She just seems to come out for the Democrats way more than Republicans to me.
Yeah, well, listen to what happens if you call her a leftist. Here we have this clip is about a minute and some change. So this is her on a recent little like mini panel. It was her and Chris Cuomo, or as Ben Shapiro calls him, block of wood, and. And so I think one of Trump's old advisors squaring off against border policy. And this, I mean, it's a famous clip. It's making or at least it's making the rounds recently. It's the one where she's filing her nails. I'm sure you've seen it pop up.
I have seen it memed. I have not seen the clip. Yeah.
So here's how it started. This is him. I mean, you just hear it for yourself. So here, this is what happens when you tell her she's a Democrat.
Donald Trump Jr. says.
All right, you know what?
I don't want to talk about
Anna,
that entitled little brat.
You just said that the president demonizes immigrants, and this is another sort of sleight of hand that the left loves to try to put over on the American people. He has never demonized immigrants. He is against illegal aliens. He is against breaking and entering into our country. He's against a lawless border. He loves legal immigration. As a matter of fact, literally, so he's married.
Steve, I have asked you in the past. Let me tell you this. No, wait. Let me say this. I have asked you in the past, and I will ask you again today to stop referring to me as left. Let me remind you that I was a Republican when Donald Trump was a Democrat. I was a Republican when Donald Trump was an independent.
You're a very leftist.
I was a Republican and supporting Republicans when Donald Trump had Hillary and Bill Clinton at his wedding and was giving Nancy Pelosi money. So the fact that people like you have enabled Donald Trump to take this party hostage and change and give up and compromise convictions and principles, Republican ones, that I grew up with, does not make me left. I fled left.
This is the most conservative. This is the most conservative president.
You can
since
do
Ronald
whatever
Reagan.
you want. The fact that I do not
let's get back to the subject matter.
Does not make me left.
All right, he might be the most conservative president since Calvin Coolidge.
But hold on.
So if you oppose the conservative policies on this president, you are de facto a leftist.
Demonizing
migrants.
She just kind of like ruined her own point, though, because she just said, people can switch parties, giving the Donald Trump example. Like, she has kind of done the same thing.
Right. Well,
I've been a Republican my whole life. Okay, well, so is Donald Trump, and he's a Republican now.
Yes.
Like, he was Democrat, so you seem to have done the same thing.
Yeah, and well, so I went ahead. Of course,
Trump's guy gets in there and makes a fool of himself too. So.
Well, so I was actually confused about why people would call her a fake Republican or coming from the left, and I found this really interesting video, and I pulled the audio from this. It was a little short, only 17 seconds long. Just to put a pin on this one real quick, here is Ana Navarro just after the election.
My name is Ana Navarro, and after many months, after many hours, after much consumption of alcohol, a lot of thought, a lot of questioning of myself, I cast my vote for Hillary Clinton this year.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's probably why they call you a Democrat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man.
That was rough.
After much consumption of alcohol, questioning myself. Yeah. Yeah, it'd probably be the route I'd go, too, if I had to vote Hillary.
Or out of politics. But,
yeah.
And, you know, or you're Ana Navarro or Bill Weld, right? And that's just what you're going to do. Right? Because, anyway, so, I just wanted to play that because I thought it was hilarious. I am not a leftist. Yeah. So a little later on in their discussion,
like Maury with like the lie detector test says that's a lie.
Right? Exactly. I just had to bust that one out on her real quick. And let's keep in mind too that like she's gone on, you know, campus tours where she's taught after Parkland. She went on campus tours, pounding the table for gun control. You know, there's a tweet right here I've got from October in 2017. Not a gun control activist. I respect Second Amendment. But folks, 42 pairs of shoes, I understand. 42 guns, including assault rifle, I don't. No. So, you know, again, she's taking the positions of the left here on this one. She's opposed the NRA and a lot of the positions that the 2A supporters have on The View. She's done it like on her tours. She went and talked about how there need to be regulations on firearm ownership and stuff like that, right? And so the reason I think that that's interesting is she's, you know, taken that position when it comes to gun control. But here you've got, I guess, an interesting discussion. I'll mention how it ties into the gun control thing after we listen to this. This one's about 1 minute and 45. It's a little longer, so bear with me. This is near the end of it. This is when she's gonna file her nails. Now you can't see it, but you can you can hear from the sounds of it. She does sound quite delightful here in discourse. I'm gonna go ahead and play this.
About criminality between native-born and immigrants. First of all, that's not true. There's a lot of conflicting studies. But even if it were true,
only when you include the illegal entry as criminality do you get the numbers where you want them.
No, that's not true. Yes, that's not true. John Lott did an extensive study of Arizona. There are conflicting studies. But listen, even if I were to grant you that point, yes, there are. But even if that's fake news to say there are not. It's fake news.
It's fake news for you to inject BS and say that it's equal to the real data.
It's not BS. But even if I were to grant you that, okay, the point is the illegal alien crime rate
to the listeners, that wasn't
zero. It should be. You can do your nails. You know who can't do their nails? Are people who've been killed, Anna, by dangerous, known illegal aliens who've been allowed to stay in this country because of the leftist policies that people like you promote in so-called sanctuary cities.
I'm so tired
to allow
of
them to hide in plain sight.
Already. Just because you want to compromise
I don't care if you're tired
values.
of it. Go back to
Listen, I don't
go
care.
back to filing your nails.
I don't care what you call me. To me, you're practically as irrelevant as Donald.
Well, you sure seem to care.
Well, Officer I don't have to care.
Officer Singh in California can't file his nails, Ana Navarro. Maybe you can. He doesn't have that luxury because he's dead.
When I was supporting Republican candidates, when you were under a rock,
was talking over each other. Stay in this country.
There's no more progress. Steve, let me just tell you something. Get down off the soapbox. Because if you want to worry about who can file their nails, worry about who can pay their damn bills. This shutdown is on your head, my brother. This is what the president wanted. He has it now, and people are paying the price. And until he ends it, they won't be filing their nails or doing anything else that a paycheck provides.
Well, I just learned today that you can't file your nails unless you have a paycheck.
I didn't even catch that. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
All those things. File your nails.
For like 10 cents. But okay.
Other things that a paycheck provides. Yeah.
Wow. That was
total shit show. I just think
they did bring up a good point, though, about those studies. They do add in a lot of data from, considering illegal crossing of the border to be a crime. So almost, all of illegal immigrants would be criminals under that study. So they did make a good point there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he did have a point. A lot of those studies are super flawed.
Yeah. So the thing that I noticed here, though, that was interesting to me is she's like, she's filing her nails. What's interesting about this is like, it doesn't matter, right? Like if it's one person hurt in violence from an illegal immigrant, then according to their own rhetoric, it should matter, right? Because those are the rules for the gun debate, are they not?
They are. No more dead kids. One is too many.
One is too many, right?
That doesn't apply.
Right, and she goes on and on about, and I just read you the quote, right? Assault rifle. No one needs an assault rifle, right? So if you look at the statistics, what is it? Something like 2% or something like that of like deaths in America that come from firearm come from quote unquote assault rifles. So you're talking about like really, really small numbers.
I think it was less than 1%.
Probably it's like a percentage of a percentage or something like that, And I mean, look, it's rough when you put like this kind of like when you put human lives as statistics, and I understand that, but if the point of the matter is, right, if you're talking about legislation, you kind of have to have those conversations, right? When you're talking about taking people's rights away, because the biggest deal, like we've talked about before on this show, when it comes to the gun issue, is that you're not when you put down regulations like that, for the most part, you're regulating and restricting like people, law-abiding citizens.
Yes, and you're creating more criminals.
Right, out of people who, aren't criminals.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the big issue there.
Like, why is the crime rate so high? Probably because everything's a crime. Probably
because you're making crime, yeah. And so I thought this was really, really interesting is you get... It's just crazy to me. You sit back and you look at like Acosta and he's like so fucking batshit nuts by everything now. He's making arguments for why the wall is good.
Yeah.
Right. And then you turn over and you look over here and you see Ana Navarro, who clearly hates Trump more than anything in life that she can muster hate for. Right. And she's voting for Hillary Clinton. She's jumping on.
She's a Republican,
Right, of course, yeah. But that's the same arguments now. You're seeing like the gun debate like switched, right? And it's the people that won't accept, the same people that would not accept these arguments and it's happening everywhere, right? So if you look at the border wall debate right now, what are they saying? They're saying the border doesn't work anyway. People will just dig tunnels. Right, the border,
or they'll fly over, or they'll come by water or air. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Or the wall doesn't work.
Or it's going to come in a car, right? Which is look, that's fine.
Well, I think it's like 70% of illegal immigrants came here legally, and all their their visas expired or work permits or whatever they just expired and overextended their stay.
Yeah,
and like I get that, and like I'm not for the border wall like at all. It's a huge waste of money. I don't think it's going to have the effect that everyone thinks it will. I'm like, oh, but we have criminals coming over. It's like, well, they probably came here legally, so it's not really going to have the impact everyone thinks it will. Will it keep some people out? Yeah, absolutely. But the super dangerous, cartel members that are coming over, they're not smuggling themselves over the border like that. They're coming, by plane and car and everything else. They're coming through legally.
Yeah, I know.
Like you really think cartel members are some, destitute immigrants sneaking over the border in the middle of the night with their children? No. Like most people coming over here, they're desperate. Like I get it. I get the humanitarian arguments behind it, and I think they should, simplify the process and make it easier for them to come over. But when you just have these emotional arguments, not one more dead American from immigration or not one more dead kid from guns, you kind of lose context and you lose your arguments in that because it's just emotional.
It's just funny. It's just funny because they, I think the right is correct when they talk about these kind of things in the gun debate. And I think the left is correct in bringing up what they're bringing up about the wall, right? But it's just funny that you see the left denying this kind of argumentation when it's about guns, when it's about something that they are emotionally invested in, right? They ignore it. And it's the kind of same stuff, right? Like we did an article about this with the NFA, and breaks down to it. It's like, what are you trying to do? Like, policy is there to solve a problem, right? Like, so Trump is trying to say the wall or border security is there to stop the influx of criminals or the influx of drugs, right? And so you can alternatively go and you say, okay, guns, or at least like in the case of Australia and the NFA, what they wanted to do is curb like suicide, right? Because they had a high suicide rate. So what ends up happening is you have these numbers that say suicide by firearm decreased by 90%, but the bigger issue that everyone is overlooking is that suicide didn't decrease. It actually increased, right? It was as highest in 2016 as it had been in 10 years. So if the goal of the policy was to decrease suicide, like the goal of the border wall, as stated by the president, is to decrease drugs that are coming into the country or criminals that are coming into the country, right? The same argument works there. And this is what people from the right generally tend to argue, right? Is it's like these policies aren't stopping the things that you want them to stop. Like criminals are going to continue to be criminals, right? Laws don't stop criminals. Okay, so this stuff is still going to keep happening.
5 years, they're going to say, illegal immigrant crime is down by 90%. It's like, okay, but the crime rate's the same, so like you didn't solve anything. Like I see that happening in like 5-10 years after the stupid wall's built. That's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be the left's crap with the guns, just with the right and the border. And
it very well could have, but people should probably start listening to each other more, right? Like when these arguments are somewhat compelling, right? If there's people, I guess this last one I saw was like some guy like from a part of El Chapo's mob was like telling courts, they're like, look, we're not going over where we're supposed to go over bringing this stuff, right? It's like you said, it's in airplanes, it's in cars that you're not noticing that drugs are in. We're not like, and the Democrats, they'll build tunnels, they'll go on boats, they'll go into airplanes. They're right. It is correct.
Nobody is talking about the root causes of all of this stuff.
The drug war.
We're not talking about the drug war.
Right.
And that's just mind-blowing to me. Like, how is nobody making this connection?
Well, it's because keeping the drug war rolling is, I mean, unless you're like the Kamala Harris or some of these radicals on the left, I think that it's like kind of like a partisan thing, a bipartisan thing that the drug war needs to keep going.
Right. Well, I've even seen, like independent leftist media making videos on the immigration. And some of these videos have been pretty informative. They're pretty good, even though they do have a bias. But even them, they're not addressing the drug war at all. Like, you want drug-related crime to go down? Stop making it a crime. Like, I don't understand it. Like, it's right there, like in front of them. But yeah, it's probably just partisan interest in keeping that going because of all that money.
Well, Shapiro actually talks about his position on drugs pretty well, and I think it's a good position for libertarians to listen to, because even if you are like an anarchist on this topic, right? Like going out there and saying legalize recreational heroin or legalize recreational cocaine, it's not exactly like a point of view that's going to win you the hearts and minds of the people that you're talking to, right?
Right. So
Shapiro, when he talks about this, it's actually like, I actually like the way that he communicates it. He does it in a way that says, look, I believe, he says, I'm very libertarian on my view on drugs. I think all drugs should be legal. With that said, it doesn't mean that you can't have laws around doing things with drugs, just like we have now with alcohol, right? He kind of frames it like that, right? So yeah, like cocaine isn't illegal, but it is to drive on cocaine or something like that. I think that's a way of framing it. Even if you don't, like, even if you're a libertarian and you don't think, or if like you're an anarchist and you don't think that's fine. But when you're having conversations with people, like, it's probably more rational to come from that standpoint, to kind of show someone that, making the substance illegal in this country as it is are what leads to the violence on the border that gets talked about with all this crazy, like, dramatic rhetoric. You can make sure that people aren't strung out on the streets of your towns and your cities. Just the same way people make sure that people aren't walking around drunk all the time, which I mean, it still happens from time to time, and people are still going to be on drugs on the street. But like, his whole point is, that's why you're not allowed to go out in public, like blackout drunk. Like, you get arrested, there's a drunk in public. That's a thing, right? You can't drink and drive.
And the drug laws are way more intrusive than the, drunk and disorderly laws. Like, that stuff we can tackle later. I'd like to just get the drug laws repealed first, and then we can, transition into whatever, not having those laws. It's definitely a good starting point when talking to people who are unfamiliar with the abolish the drug war movement.
Yeah, I thought it was good. It offers a point of view that you can talk to someone who, without seeming like a radical or without seeming crazy, to make like a logical case that, like, look, you can make sure that these things aren't tarnishing your community and eroding, the values and the virtues that you hold dear, just by making something legal. It doesn't mean that it's, no holds barred. It's everyone go and turn into a junkie. It just means that, you're not, giving a big incentive for people to run giant drug cartels, Yeah. Yeah. All right. Been a real good time. Was there anything else? I think we covered a lot here. We're almost at an hour. This has been a productive podcast.
We hit everything we planned on talking about tonight.
Yeah, I can't even keep it straight anymore. I've been so damn busy ever since we did the Being Libertarian, Think Liberty, Rational Standard thing. All I am doing is websites.
All I'm doing is just operation stuff. It's been busy. Yeah, the merger was fantastic, but the workload it's a bit much.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it takes a lot to get this stuff going. By the way, to anyone listening, if you do care to help, so we are going to be coming out with a Think Liberty Patreon soon. In the meantime, we do have a Being Libertarian Patreon. Any help you could give us, we would really, really appreciate. All of these brands have pretty much been running without any kind of monetization for quite a while. And God bless the contributors that have been doing it just out of the kindness of their hearts. But we'd like to change that. We'd like to be able to get some of these people paid, and we'd like to be able to pay some of these platform costs in a timely and organized and consistent manner. And we're not going to be able to do that unless we can monetize some stuff. So if you could be so kind as to if you go to the Being Libertarian Facebook page, you can see it there. It's like the post pinned at the top. I wrote a little article about it. So if you could spare $1, $5 a month, whatever, go over there and donate. That'd be great. Or you can buy a shirt. So we have some shirts popping up. You can go on Amazon.com and type in Being Libertarian, and you can see some of the new shirts that we're coming out with. You can go grab those too. That would be helpful.
They're also on the Facebook page on the shop tab, so you can see them all there on Facebook. Great designs.
Well, those are on there for the Think Liberty one. We haven't done it yet for Being Libertarian for the shop.
They're not on the page anymore?
No.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Me just not knowing anything.
I know. Oh, that's all that work,
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. You'll get the hang of it sooner or later.
Wow. Okay.
That guy's the Deion Sanders of retards.
Yeah. Anyway, it's okay. You're lucky I'm not playing the other clip.
Better not.
Yeah, I'm going to wait until you're not on the podcast.
Yeah.
It's my favorite one to play when you're not around. That way you can listen to it when you're gone.
You're so mean. Why? You're so mean to me.
Well, if it wasn't funny, I wouldn't do it. But
I still laugh every time. But
right. Well, everything. It's all for the jokes. Okay. That's good enough. All right. Well, is there anything else you want to say before we go? Anything you want to plug? Anything you want to mention? Anything like that?
Make sure to go to the Think Liberty Facebook page, like the page, follow us on Twitter at think_liberty, and Instagram.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
Yeah. Follow the things. Do the stuff. We've mentioned it a lot. So you should know where everything is. Just type it. Search it. Think Liberty. You'll find it. Yeah. We're there. Okay. Well, this has been a blast. The media sucks. Everyone's a hypocrite. No one knows what they're talking about anymore. Everyone's going nuts. And Whether or not anyone likes it, we'll probably be back in.